Oh. Dan here, DD Speed Shop. What's that? That's brake fluid. Yeah, what the heck's that from? Anyway, 55 Nomad. So, if you're new here, we built this thing. We're preparing to take it on a long road trip, and I'm pounded miles on it. This thing has been in a million pieces for like the last 30 years, or whatever it is. We finally got it dialed together. And my goal is to put 1,000 miles on it before we leave. And we got about 6 days before we're going, something like that. And I'm at about 300 miles. So not too bad. There's a lot of, I've been driving to work every day. If we're going anywhere, we take the Nomad. But at a certain point, we're just gonna have to start going on useless drives around town, like around the ring road and stuff. But things running good. Day by day, I'm slowly making little tune-ups and stuff, which again, we can make on the road, but let's go ahead and do the best we can here. Now, today I was just setting the floats. We had to lower them a little bit there. I made this little heat shield, and I wonder where that brake fluid's coming from. It looks like it's coming from the back and rolling forward. That's a weird one. We'll have to do a little checking. It's not low. I do check it regularly to play with that. Anyway, so today, kind of a little bit of maintenance. There is some ugly wiring we have to tackle. I've got some miscellaneous, a 3-pod worth of gauges just sitting there doing nothing. Fuel gauge wires right there, not hooked up. The car's actually coming to be appraised tomorrow. I do have a fear of something happening to this thing while we're out of country, so we're going to get it appraised and properly, extra insurance and all that sort of stuff. But the brakes are squealing, so we're going to pull the front brakes, go through them. I got to grease the front end, nut and bolt check it. 300 miles in is probably a good thing to do. Make sure everything is good there. We have some sort of a clunky noise in the back end under kind of big bumps, which I think might just be tools and garbage I left in the tire well. So that might be needed. The radiator I just have kind of fixed in here. I need to build some spacers to hold that in properly. It's actually kind of being pulled out a little bit, being rocked against the shroud, which is fine. It's not the end of the world, but I'd like to fix that. Just odds and ends, you know what I mean? We do have a different set of plug wires for it. I do have spark plugs to change, all that sort of stuff. Probably give it an oil change, all that little stuff. But we got 700 miles before we're doing that. I don't know what else I got to do. Oh, the exhaust has to be dropped down. The one header has to be changed. There's still lots of little tedious things. And ultimately, we could leave right now in it. But why would you? We got a week to figure things out. So I'm going to go ahead and jack this thing up. We'll pull the wheels. We'll see what it looks like. Oh, I bought seat belts today. I'm a believer in seat belts, even if they're just lap belts. I do like having them on. I just feel better about it. So we'll, get the front end up, drill those in, get it all dialed together, and one thing at a time. I'll see you up in the air. Okay, up in the air. I already did the other side brake, so I'll show you this side. So I, pull it off. I just scuffed up the rotor a little bit, and then I put just a little bit of like anti-squeak, silicone lubricant stuff on the pads, put it all back together. I greased everything. I actually didn't grease this thing when I put it all together, so that's good to do. The bearings were all fine. We checked all that before. I think what happened was this thing sat, and I never drove it, and the rotors got all kind of rusty and stuff like that. They got kind of glazed over and everything, so I scuffed it all up. So I put some goo on it, put it all back together. It should be fine, I'm thinking. And a couple of hard brakes will fix it right up. I'm going to put the seat belts in real quick while it's up in the air, and then I think we're going to mess with this carburetor and the timing a little bit. I kind of glossed over that, and there's a few things, stupid airplanes, there's a few things I want to do to it. Just kind of roughly set the tune a little, and yeah, it runs good. I can't really complain, but I literally just put this carburetor on there and did 0 things to it. So it's probably best to give it a quick once over. Then we got to get inside. I want to mount all the gauges properly, clean up the wiring. I think that's where I'm going to run out of time tonight. I don't want to take it too far apart because, again, the guy's coming to more look at this thing. And I want to, zip tie everything up, make it look nice, hang all the gauges, clean it all up, and then we can start working on something else. Tomorrow, I got to put, I got an O2 gauge or air fuel to put in and wire up some lights inside. I should make a list of stuff, actually, because we're getting to the point now where a lot of the big stuff's taken care of. It's these little things that I'm like driving, oh yeah, I should do that. Oh yeah, I should do this. And maybe I should write it down. So, seatbelts in, and then we'll see this thing on the ground. All right, well, wouldn't you know it, the appraiser guy called me and wanted some pictures of this hot rod. So I slammed it together real quick and I had to get those pictures out. So anyways, I thought what I would do is I put this thing together, like I said, and just got it running. So it runs okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's got a little bit of a dead spot, kind of off like part throttle. So it might need more, you know, accelerator pump or who knows what. But what I haven't done is gone through the damn carburetor. So I've already set the floats, which on this is very simple. It has sight glasses, but whether you have a sight glass or like a little plug that comes out or whatever, essentially you want it just at the very bottom of the sight glass or just below that little plug, so it kind of overflows out just ever so slightly if you rock the car. To do that, there's a set screw and adjusting nuts. You loosen the screw and then either tighten or loosen the little nut there, which will raise or lower the float level. So I've already done that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set, this thing has a 4 idle kind of circuit deal. So I'm going to spin them all in and I'm going to turn them all out 1.5 turns just to give me a good baseline. So I'll do that real quick. This is some entertaining stuff. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the throttle blade or the idle until it's kind of right down to nothing, and then I'm going to give it 1 turn maybe worth of idle. We'll have to come back and adjust our accelerator pump, but this will give us kind of a good baseline start. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to let it run and get it up to temperature, and then we'll kind of mess with it. Now, I'm kind of doing things out of order. I already have set the timing all in at like 36 degrees. I might put a couple more degrees in it just for fun. But when you see it next, it'll be all warmed up and maybe even running. Now, I'll just kind of show you what I did here. I'll shut the car off so you can properly hear me. So we got it running. I've got the timing light set. We have 15 degrees of initial timing. It's idling at 850 RPM. It's at temperature. Everything was good. Now, I'll just show you what I did here. So we had the old girl idling. Ooh, the fender wells, hot fender. So we had the old girl idling, and I cut myself too. I'm all over the place. So we had our mixture screws out 1.5 turns all the way around, and we had our idle set 1 turn after contact. 15 degrees of initial timing, 36 degrees all in. Now I know there's kind of a lot going on there. With it running at temperature, I threaded in the mixture screws. Essentially, you can lean them out by turning it in. You can play with it. You can rich them up if you have to, but in this case, I turned them in. It was very rich at idle. You could feel it in your eyeballs. Turn them in, and as you turn them in, the RPM actually increased. So originally, we had this running. It was sitting at, let's say, I don't know, 850, 900 RPM. By turning those screws in, we actually brought the up to like 1100 RPM. So that's where you're getting more vacuum and all that sort of stuff. The engine's happier. If you go too much, it starts to stumble the other way. So then you kind of, when it stumbles, back it off, 1/2 turn, whatever you kind of feel is right there. So that's where we got. Essentially, this one was the idle wants to be about 1 turn out the whole way around. We did that. I then readjusted my idle down to about 850 RPM. The timing was all dialed. So we're pretty much where we want to be. Now, the only other thing we got to deal with is your accelerator pump. Now you want to make sure the second you touch the throttle, that's going, right? So you don't want that to be over tight, because if it's over tight, you'll lose some of your pump shot. And if it's too loose, you'll have to move the throttle before it actually starts pumping. You want that immediately. Now you can play with this by changing, there's a little cam in there to show how much goes, how fast it comes in, all those sort of things. But that's just kind of the basics to get it running, going down the road. At this point now, you'll need, screwing around, test and tune, figure out what your car wants and what you want to do with your car. Obviously, the camshaft, the gearing, all those things are all affecting it. This is just a good, healthy tune to get started, and we're happy. We can start reading plugs and all that going down the road. So that's what we're leaving for tonight. Tomorrow, I'll be out and do, I don't know what else I said I was going to do. I'm making a list of seat belts and all that. We got to meet the appraisal guy, see what he says, and kind of go from there. I did do a front end alignment on it today at the shop. It's got all kinds of caster in it. It's got 10 degrees caster, which is lots, but you know, this thing's lifted up and screwed around. We set the toe, and the camber was pretty much good. So a lot of caster is, I mean, that's like gasser levels of caster, but she'll go straight, which we're gonna be doing a lot of straight line driving on the way down on the highway, so we'll see how it goes. That's really it for tonight. I'm hot. I gotta edit a video for tomorrow. It never ends, and tomorrow's supposed to rain, be hot and rain, so we get to test this thing out in the heat and the wipers and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure these big slicks will handle it, no problemo. But that's it for me. See you guys tomorrow. Stupid Nomad. So, actually, I can't remember the car. We worked today, ran out of gas, and part of that could have been the fact that I didn't put any gas in it, and the fuel gauge wasn't working. So I got home, and I made it so the gas gauge works, I think. Ooh, full tank, and it shuts off, goes down. So that's mint. I got a tachometer, pre-broken from Scamazon. Appreciate that. So I'm gonna wire that up real quick. Scotch locks included. I'm using them. And then the passenger side header's starting to clicky clack. I'm gonna slap a gasket in there real quick. And we're gonna put some miles on it. These headers are really starting to be the bane of my existence. Maybe it needs more support or something, I'm not really too sure. Yeah, then I think we're just gonna drive. That's what I'm gonna do tonight, really. I pulled out this cooler for some cool shirts, so I'm going to explain that in the kind of second half of the video. Maybe that'll be tomorrow or sorry, later tonight. I do have to get a few pieces for this, so you'll go to Home Depot and get that, and we'll slap it together tomorrow, because this is going to save, if you have an old hot rod and you're too cheap for air conditioning, Dan here, DD Speed Shop, something like this makes a big difference. We put it on last year, and it's a quick and easy way to stay cool. So I'm going to get this tachometer wired up real quick, and then yeah, maybe I'll do a header gasket, maybe it won't, we'll see. I'm getting kind of lazy, but I'm gonna get after it. Sun's going down behind the houses. You know, this is what happens. I start working, and I called up Tony, you know, just we're talking carburetor stuff, you know how it is. Anyways, a bunch of time went by, but while I was doing that, I took off this one header gasket because it had seen better days, and you can see the bottom there. It's just starting to click just a little bit. The backside ripped off, but I think I did that when I took it off. It looks okay, actually. Maybe just a little bit there. It probably just got burnt off as well. It's going to come off in a nice chunk. So, put new ones on. These are Performance World, you know, El Chinese, but they're 1/8 inch thick or whatever. You guys have all been hounding me in the comments about reflex or something like that, gaskets. Anyways, whatever they were, I got 2 sets on Amazon. Now, the one thing is, these, I will say, when the car was running kind of goofy and we were trying to tuning and all that, a couple of times I put the probe on the exhaust. It was like 700 and some degrees, which is pretty freaking hot. And I will admit, I probably didn't go back and torque them all down and all those sort of things. So we'll see. The other side's been actually doing good since I stacked the gaskets in there. And it's got like 150, 200 miles on it. I'm hoping I'm not changing these every day. But anyways, for now, we put new ones in. I brought the motor up to temperature. I just shut it off. I'm going to drop this thing down, let it cool off a little. I'm going to re-torque them real quick, and then we're going to go for a ride, probably at night by the looks of it. But such is life. If all we have to do is change some header gaskets along the way, I'm going to call that a win. But we're not out of the woods yet. Anyways, sounds good. Rev's good. Happy with it. You know, it's the classic. Exhaust leaks are brutal because they make these clickety-clacky noises. The sun's really messing with the camera here. And you know, you never know what it is and all that. So I thought the motor was making a little bit of noise, but obviously it was just the ticking of that. So we have just that regular kind of rotationally noise that this thing has had since I've had it. And we're gonna keep pounding miles on. So I'll let this cool off a little bit. I gotta modify the battery tie down because I changed a few things, but that's a job for tomorrow. I don't think it's gonna fly out tonight. Remember how I said what's the worst that could happen? I'll have that battery tied down? Totally forgot about it. I was bagging the hell out of it. And as it turns out, the battery was on the header. So that is the worst that can happen. So we're going to go ahead and diffuse that situation. And it's embarrassing. But hey, we made her home. Car ran really good other than the battery issues. Okay, so crisis averted. Nothing really else got burned.
Did you show that?
Oh yeah, I know I think I showed it already. So,
Just in case.
battery tie downs are important.
Is that gas?
No, it's water.
Oh.
That's how you put out a battery acid
Well,
issue.
I was very confused.
So everything's okay. Nothing got really burnt or anything there, other than the header a little bit and just a little bit of battery. Yeah, got a little bit of. There's a little patina on the motor there. Luckily, just hours ago, it got appraised.
Maybe don't leave this video up after that.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so we'll hose it all down. What are you gonna do? Tire batteries down. The lesson learned here, DD Speed Shop. This thing, it was rocking though. I put a bunch of miles on it, and then I got back in the city. I was like, yeah, it's running good, no issues. I'm like, I should bag on this thing. So I was just dumping the clutch and hammering it. It's got some wheel hop issues we gotta address, but I'm like, I should be as hard as I'm gonna be on it right now. So if there is a problem, you know, well, we'll find it now. Because I think when I'm down, or we're down in the States, we're gonna have to make sure, like, the old ride home has to make the ride home. So I don't want to bag on it too bad. But Dan here, next day speed shop. So we left last night. Dan was an idiot, real shocker. Today is the cooling segment of the build. So that was gross. Buddy, Delta PAG, sent me a fan. Now the deal was, so the fan that's on there, it was like a last minute panic I got from John, Trorin's Corvette drag week guy. And I was like, what do you want for this? He's like, just replace it. I said, okay. So I had that on there. So I called the guy and I'm like, okay, you know, this and that, go through the whole deal. I need one. He says, well, we have newer ones. This is an older one. How about I just kind of give you a deal on this and then I can give the old one back. So I said, let's do it. Sent it out. So we just got it today. This thing is like, it's the same physical size fan. Everything is there. But I guess it's a later model. It has a different control. So this one, when you fire it up, it has like a click, click, click kind of deal. This one has like a soft start. And he convinced me into this, which is some sort of controller, which I don't know how it's going to work. He said call him. But there's only 3 wires. A ground, 12-volt switched, and 12-volt to the battery. And it's all fused and everything. So he pre-wired it. He must have watched a few videos. So I should be able to hook that up. And then it's just 4 screws or whatever, machine screws to hold it on. I think we have to tilt the rad and do that. So I'll do that on my own and then we'll kind of play with it, but it should be pretty good. I stole the old Optima I had out of the Cobra. This thing's been sitting for a while. This is good batteries in there. So we're gonna put that in there and look at a tie down, which I just was too lazy to put on last night. The way she goes. So in my defense, I just wanted to go and drive, put some miles on, have a good time. And then I started beating on it and it broke. Now, last year on Power Tour, I made this setup. So there's a company out there called Cool Shirts, which we're not affiliated with whatsoever because it's expensive. We can't afford it. But I was like, it's a good idea. And what it is it's just it's a skin tight shirt you put on and it's got a bunch of cooling ducts that run through it that you run cold water through. Well, how hard can that be? So I took some old shirts and I hot glued some, I don't know, like water tube for like a water cooler to it. And then I took a submersible pump. It's like a bilge pump. These are just Canadian Tire had them. So I'm building all new this year. I left the old one outside and it got a little rammed by the Bobcat during snow clearing. So it's like a 800 gallon per hour pump and very simple. All I do is attach it like that with a little fitting into, I think it's 8th hardline. So I'll just kind of show you how this thing works real quick. So we have the pump in there. Obviously we click it on. Gentle, buddy. Batteries are not my deal. So it's going to launch water out, right? That's doing nothing. So now what we do, we're going to hook these lines up. Excuse me. And I used air compressor fittings because I have air compressor fittings. Hook it on like that, and it's just going to put water. Well, there's some junk. You probably focus on the junk, you'll see it all go through, or get clogged. One or the other.
Ew. We're gonna have to like clean these through with bleach or something.
I was thinking just let them run. See if it'll go through. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she's rocking. Look at it just push on. It's like a colonoscopy or what are they?
Oh gosh, that's so gross.
So you can see the one, how am I going to do this? I have them tied together, but obviously this one now is just the return line, but it'll just cycle water through. Now this is going to be our cooler with all our drinks and stuff. So it'll have a bunch of cold ice water in it, and it actually makes a world of difference. So instead of wearing them, all we did last year was we just put them just like that over top of the back of the seat, and your back was cool. So that's that. So I'm going to pull up the other one real quick, and that's kind of about it. Put the fan on, and then I think we're going cruising tonight. We're probably going to start this thing up and maybe let the old battery cook off the header. There's a little bit of interstate left on it, but that's fine. Emmer's here.
Observing.
In his safety colors. But yeah, so we'll be back in a little bit when this thing's all kind of dialed together. We'll show you how the fan works. Okay, so I put the radiator, had to take the rad out, change the fan over, and I put the new setup in, which ultimately looks identical. There's a different controller on it, and there's this little brain here. Now this, so it's a slick setup. It comes ready to go. So it's like 9 o'clock our time, 8:30, whatever it is. And John, the guy at Delta, I was talking to him on the phone. He's in New York, so he's a good guy. Anyway, and he was saying actually you guys were giving him a call, so I appreciate that. Making us seem like we know what we're doing. Man, this guy understands freaking fans. So the whole reason he got into this fan deal, he told me, so he's in New York, they got a fleet contract with New York taxi cabs, and New York taxi cabs were burning through fans, and then of course they keep driving them until they overheat, blow the motor, yada yada yada. So they figured out these fan things, which are million hour, fantastic, all this stuff, right? And then they switched over to performance side for hot rodders. But that's how it started. So New York taxi cab, I gotta think to myself, there's probably not much more of a put to work vehicle than that. So if they figured that out, we're golden. Now the way this works, it's a little different than in your mind you're kind of used to. So it has this probe in the radiator up in as close to the inlet as possible. So essentially, this probe should be roughly the same temperature as the thermostat, or the water coming out of the thermostat. I have a 180 degree thermostat. The way he explained it is at 180 degrees, that's when the thermostat begins to open, and it's not fully open until about 190. So yeah, and that's when it's actually flowing. So the way this works, this can control 2 fans. We have it set up just for 1. You click on, it's giving us our current temperature, and this is on all the time. This you can put inside the car if you want. I'm going to mount it under the hood. Weather pack connectors, it's heat and water. Like you put it wherever you want. So put it right to the shroud. Okay. You click on mode. The fan is going to kick on at 195 degrees. So when this says 195, the fan's going to kick on at level 4 speed. So there's 8 speeds. 8 speeds. And then high will be 200. So that'll be speed 8. Which is 30% more flow than that last fan that was on there, which that basically had kind of low and high. So, and then it will kick off at 190 degrees. Now, the way he explained this is at 180 the thermostat starts to open, at 190 it should be flowing, and then if we're on the highway, for instance, cruising 185 or 180, whatever it may be, the fan won't be on. The controller will know what's going on based on that probe. And then when we get to 195, it will kick on at a level 4. And then it will progressively, so it's a variable speed fan, so it actually has speed 1 to 8, it starts at 4, and let's say it gets to like 197 degrees, the fan will ramp up to speed 6 without doing anything or whatever, and by 200 it will be balls to the wall, as much air as can go, which I can't imagine we'll ever need because this fan was fine for this setup. Now the other thing is, so let's say we're running 191 degrees, that fan won't be at 4, it'll draw all the way back to like 1 or whatever speed may be. So it's this variable thing, and it's endlessly trying to go up and down and maintain your temperature. So pretty slick setup, I gotta say. I think it said all in, it was like 20 amps or something like that, 22 amps, so it's not even a huge draw. Like there's just a whole lot of benefits to this thing. And I mean, I know I'm talking like I'm blue in the face of this, but it's pretty rare that you find like a quality product and a guy that really matters. So I'm stoked to try this out. So we're gonna put some water in it and we'll see where it goes. We got this, you know, new battery in it. Hopefully I don't burn that up. Unfortunately, I was just looking, that acid mangled all of the boots. They're all completely disintegrated. I should probably change that fuel filter too, because it got coated in battery acid. So we got, hopefully have some spare boots. I don't want to put those MSD ones on just yet. So I got some spare ones I'll put on, put water in it, change the fuel filter, and we'll just let this thing idle and see if how the fans work. I'm pretty excited to try it out.
Do you have gas in it?
There's gas in it. The gauge says there's gas in it. Worst case, we run out of gas. It's no big deal. So we'll do that. I got to bolt the fan in. I'm just going to I want to get some double-sided tape or something for this controller, or something I can kind of put it on. This is just kind of semi-permanently temporary. And yeah, we're good. So next time you see it, this thing will be idling, and hopefully the fan will do its thing. Then I can drive to work tomorrow. And then after work, we'll put slap bars on. Well, it's another day, another kick in the teeth. So this thing had some wheel hop issues. That's what I'm going to blame for the battery flying into the headers, not the fact I didn't tie it down. So I wanted to modify some slapper bars. So I had some, but I had 2 sets. But they aren't quite long enough. The idea of the slapper bars, you want to have it bolted, you know, under the axle at the back, and then you want the nub to be right in the eye of the front of the spring. So I pulled the wheels off, start doing some measuring, and I'm like, okay, so I start kind of building. So the idea is you want a slap bar to go from here and right there. What is going on with that spring? So it's bent up and then back down. I'm like, well, that's weird. Then I go to the back. The shackle is all the way back and up against the perch. So now there's no movement this way whatsoever. It's it's doing this, which is bending the hell out of the spring, or maybe they're beat, or maybe they're too long. I don't know what these are from originally. I just kind of had them. So the wagon's in the other garage, my 56 wagon, and we're stealing the springs off of it. So I'm going to take one spring off. We're going to compare them side to side, see what the deal is. They're the exact same. They're 6 leaf. I mean, I don't know, I'm pretty sure these are tri-pipe springs, but I mean, look at this. Like, it's got an upward bend, so that's not good as far as I'm concerned. You want to have that kind of move up and down and have the flex kind of go back and forth and up and down, all sorts of stuff, which we don't have. So I was originally going to do that, and I wanted to move this shot crossbar, which you probably can't see because it's too dark, because it's actually hitting the rear end on full slam. So we have to cut it out, move it ahead. So the day has gone sideways. I feel like I'll be working till late at night, but yeah, another day. So I'm going to pull this spring out again. The nice thing is there are new springs in the wagon, there are new springs here, so they do come out fairly easily. So glass half full, right? Okay, so obviously the dark springs are the ones that were in the car, because I wire wheeled them and cleaned them. You know, I kind of recall they looked a little goofy, but I didn't, whatever. Anyways, the bottom string was the best one. And you can see they're eyelet to eyelet there. And then here, clearly not. And that was the good spring. Oh, these are heavy. Hang on. Oh gosh. Get these lined up. You're gonna look at the floor real quick. Gentle, gentle. Get that pretty close. So eyelets are lined up. That's all lined up. And look at that. So that's going to drop us a lot for ride height. So this will raise it up, which is actually kind of good. I actually ordered some air shocks for this thing because with all our gear in it, I like how it sits, but with all our gear in it, full of gas, all that, I'm worried about it. So I'm going to carry on, put these springs back in, just loose so the dip can sit on it. Then I'm going to cut out the crossbar and then make a new one out of something. I don't know what I got. I might have some 2x2 overkill stuff, but it's what I have. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to double check and just make sure the shackles are the same in case these shackles are longer. These are aftermarket ones with poly bushings in them, so I'll make sure it's nothing to take the wagon one apart. And then If I have time, I'll just put these other springs in the wagon just so we have everything as a roller, but what a lot of work. Okay, so we got the old rusty new springs in. I have the floor jack under the thing, so it's at ride height at this point. I don't know if you can see the back, but see there's right there's a crack of light between the fuel tank and the rear end. It's actually moved ahead a little, which is awesome. There's room now behind, I can put my fingers behind the shackle and the perch, which before, when you had it lifted up, it was against it. So that's a problem. So now we have more, kickback. The spring has obviously more arch to it. Before it was kind of flat and it was like an S and stuff. I guess we'll see if it does it again. And we still have the 57 we can take apart. Well, 2 57s, 3 57s. On this side, I just kind of test fit the old slapper Dan. So we got her bolted on. I have it as far over as I can, just so it doesn't get away the tire. I should be fine, I think. We'll have to double check and make sure that's not going to be an issue, but not much you can do about it. The extension, as you can see, this rubber bushing here is, finger and a half away from hitting the eyelet. So the idea is, as you accelerate, the rear end wants to walk up. So as it wants to walk up, what it typically does is it'll put a bulge in the spring, and then as that goes up, it then kind of does this weird little thing. And that's what causes the axle wrap and it snaps. So what this is doing, essentially, is as you accelerate, it's going to lock this in there. So it kind of makes like a hillbilly 4-link or a ladder bar setup stuff. Boom, it's locked into position. This isn't going to have any more spring to it. It's like a, like a straight bar to it. It's the old version of like a Caltrack or something along those lines. They don't ride the greatest. They kind of bang around. It will limit your suspension travel, which is also kind of a good thing for us. And further to that, we had a package come today, which before I knew I had all these problems, but a set of air shocks. So these should be factory stuff. The next thing I'm going to do, max air. So the idea with this, you run your little, air lines out the back, and then you can just put a little air in it. These give you a little bit more lift. So if you have a heavy load in the back, such as a pile of gear, spare tires, tools, you won't sack the thing right out, or if we're towing something home, whatever it may be. So those will go on, so these Monroe jobbies. That crossbar has to come out, so I'll cut that out, but it's time for a break right now. I'm very hot and tired, so we'll do that and cut that out, and then I don't know what I got some ridiculous overkill metal. We'll put the bar ahead of the rear end, which will then avoid any sort of issues. I did order some bump stops, so we'll have to make something as well. I'm thinking I'll weld a piece across the frame and then put like a rubber puck. We'll have to do the math and see how much we have, but probably like 4 inches of travel, and then the axle tubes will hit that. On a Tri-5, the bump stops are actually on the rear end. When you change the rear end, obviously you don't have any bump stops. So I'd like to put those in there and avoid all these spring issues and all that. It's a lot of work, but it is the right thing to do, unfortunately. To the US, we have to change the motor, because that's the only thing I haven't done yet. Okay, I'm tired. So we have the new springs are in, the new shocks are in. I've just kind of plumbed it, so I put air shocks on it, so it's actually kind of cool. We can now, if it's loaded down or whatever, we can add a little bit of air.
Whoa!
And it'll lift the thing up. That's not the best gauge here. So that's about 60 pounds, and it can go all the way up to 150. That's 80. So there's lots and lots of lift there. Obviously, we'll probably let most of it out. The minimum is 20 pounds, which is, I guess, probably a standard shock, 20, 30 pounds. So that'll lift it.
That was neat, sorry.
Airbags, baby. I welded in a whole new brace. Everything is kind of overkill, I'm thinking. So that's all taken care of. And then the one slapper bar, Slapper Dan, is in. I had to cut and modify it a fair bit just because these tires are so big, so I kind of had to do some butchery, but it's in, ready to go.
Out that this was at 1 in the morning yesterday.
Yeah, it was 1 o'clock in the morning last night, so I was doing those. So we got that. So I'm gonna go, I gotta get some fine thread hardware, so we're gonna go Canadian Tire, date afternoon. And then all I have to do after that is build a bump stop. So the bump stops show up tomorrow from Amazon. I'm going to put them on a pedestal to bring it down. So I'll have to do some quick math and figure out what bottomed out would be. The bump stop's 2 inches, so make my pedestal, you know, whatever, 1.5 inches more than that. And then that should be good. So worst case, we have air shocks. We have proper shocks. These were so bent and mangled. Woo. Slapper bars and all that. Slapper bars are more just for me, but now we can bag on it. It won't axle hop like crazy. The rear end's clear from the tank. Those, I don't know what those springs are from or what happened there, but they are not the plan.
Are they the original ones from the wagon or the Black Widow?
I don't know what they're from. I don't think this thing ever, I took the springs off it, because this thing many years ago, when I bought it, the frame was junk and I bought that 56 sedan delivery, and it had, I think those are the springs that were in that sedan delivery. So a little bit more karma coming back. The 56 Chevy parts that got sacrificed are getting back at me. But anyways, that's all dialed. I'm gonna, you know, just kind of wrap this up in here somewhere so we can fill it up with air. I ordered a 12 volt compressor, which we're gonna take with us so we can, you know, do whatever we gotta do, but we can air up or air down. And that should solve a lot of our issues. And then I moved the bar ahead so it's not gonna hit the rear end. There's actually a lot of screwing around. Not a lot of filming, but a lot of screwing around. A lot of. It's hot out, I'm tired, but I think we got this squared away. So if I get those slapper bars in, I should be able to put the tires on. I just have to zip tie this line up real good and get under there and just make sure everything is okay. And then we got to test what's going to ride nice and whatnot, but we should be good. Oh, actually, I want to put it on the ground that we can actually like airbags will be like, I don't know, those lowrider guys. And then clean up under the hood here a little bit. Oh, we got more hang tire. We got to get those zip things. So I want to have that controller on the Velcro thing right up against the firewall. And then we can drive it a little bit, see what else it needs. I think that's, I've made a list of things. I think we're getting near the end. I hope, because I've been driving a little bit. I put 400 miles on the thing, and we're still finding problems. I'd really like to put a few miles on it without any problems. So, because this isn't fun to do on the side of the road. Make for good videos for you guys, watch me suffer, but I prefer a nice easy cruise with a couple Arby's dinners. That's the plan. Okay, let's go to Canadian Tire. Okay, we got belts in. It's on the ground. Now, take a step back. We'll see this thing. Whoops. Lift itself up. So this is obviously just long right now. So it's got no air in it whatsoever right now. And like,
So I should be looking at the tie.
yeah, well, the car's gonna go up. So 20 pounds is like the minimum recommends. Which is about there-ish. So it went up a little bit. Oh, that's about 20 pounds. And we can rip her. That's 80. That's 100. That's like, yeah, a little over 100. And it can go all the way up to 150. I don't hear any air leaks, do you? Just this.
Hear that?
So there we go. That lifted it lots. So we'll drive it, let the suspension settle a little bit. It's a little kind of cockeyed, but it could just be the way the springs are. They got to kind of work themselves in. These ones sure did. So I'm gonna let some air out. We'll run her at like 20 pounds. But now when we put weight in it, we should be able to moderate the height. That's pretty sweet. Just gotta find a place to put this, which doesn't get ripped off, 'cause that wouldn't be the greatest. So you'll put in the bumper and all that. I don't know if I want to do that or not. I think just in here somewhere would be a good spot. But
You just add it to the door? Or would that be unsafe?
well, yeah, I don't know. Probably wouldn't be terrible. We gotta find a place for it where it's not. It's also too long and all sorts of stuff. I think I just zip tie it to the filler neck, really. That's safe. Look at that. Man. Okay, I'm gonna clamp under the hood. And then maybe we'll go for a drive. Try that. See what screws up this time.
Nothing.
Something.
It's perfect.
Stressing me out.
We're close. There's a lot of sweat on your face.
It's very hot out. I don't need this. Thank you. Well, it's the end of the night. We went for a drive, came home, then I went around for a little bit, and I went for a long drive. So I put 150 miles on today. We just crested over 500 test miles, and it went pretty good. I blew a header gasket out, shocker. So I think what I'm gonna do tonight is I'm gonna fix that. So I want to drive this thing to work tomorrow. So I think we'll take it out, we'll see which one blew up here. If I can get it far enough out, I'll zip the header like I did on that side, because that made a big difference. We can put the gasket in. Yes, Remflex, I ordered them. They're still not here, or Ramflex, whatever they're called. We'll try those out, but the other side's working out pretty good. We'll pull that. I don't really know what else to do. The next video will be a few little things. I want to move the controller for the fan inside, just so I can kind of look at it. The issue is, and I know it's in my head, but it's playing with my brain, is we're using a temperature gauge, it's a cheap mechanical temperature gauge, and it's reading different than the fan. And the fan is obviously way more accurate, and I would just prefer to see that, so I know the fan's going on and off. You can hear it, but if you're on the highway and it has to kick on, or you pull off the highway, I should stay on the highway, it shouldn't be on. If you pull off the highway and you watch the gauge run about 200, and you can hear the fan kick on. I have it kick on at 190, I think. So obviously there's a bit of a difference. Now take an infrared, it does read in between yet again. So the gauge is a little hot, then the infrared on the temp gauge is a little lower, and then the rad's lower from that and has a probe in it. So lengthen some wires, put it inside, and peace of mind at the end of the day. So yeah, I think that's really it for today. Thanks so much for watching. It's been an absolute disaster up until this point, but slowly but surely we're making it, and I will see you on the next video. Oh, subscribe below, leave a comment, all those good things. Keep jamming.